You may recall I ranted last week because CNN issued a memo to reporters telling them not to attend the Women's March. I thought it was demeaning to their female staffers and journalistically obvious. But maybe not.
Ready to go. Fired up.
Millions attended women's marches around the world.
Organize and agitate.
It was universally hailed as an uplifting experience, a way to channel concerns about President Trump in a positive way.
It's really energizing to see so many people making a stand. I wanted to stand with some amazing women for our rights.
And so did some female reporters from the Miami Herald, getting them in trouble.
We will be heard.
A number of media outlets had warned their staffs not to march ahead of time. But a piece in the Columbia Journalism Review made the case that journalists should be able to participate, saying, "I'm deeply grateful for my right as an American to peaceful protest, and I intend to use it to call for a basic tenet of journalism, fairness."
I know, Kelly, there's this issue about human rights, civic rights versus the rights of your employers to say, hey, you're making a political statement. I have to say I come down on the side of the employers on this thing, that there's no way that you can express your civic outrage, your human, and not sort of like be making a political point. So I thought it was obvious, but I guess there were a lot of journalists, including in this town, who marched, and I don't know whether there was any policies in those newsrooms or not. I know there was kind of a general reference put out, not necessarily to the march itself here at WGBH, but I have to say I agree with that.
Well, I do too.
Yeah.
But that's how we were trained.
Yeah.
I mean, you just didn't do that. That doesn't mean that you can't go and cover it if you wish.
No, that's different.
And if you want to have an opinion about it, you can be an opinion journalist, or you can write commentaries, as I do, and express your opinion with the facts. But I think I don't agree that you should be participating. That's not what we're there. Mm-hmm. We're there to do informed observation about which we can tell a full story. Now, I disagree with those who say journalists shouldn't vote, because there are some people that go to that extreme. I feel like that's the part that I have earned as an American, and I'm never going to give that up. But some people believe that for the same kinds of reasons.
Except for you're really out there showing your political position if you're at a march, and
Well, people could say that about voting as well.
No,
I
an
get
election
that.
booth, no one knows.
Yeah, I feel like this topic comes up every time there's an election. There's this question of, can you vote? Yes, you can vote. Can you put a sign in your yard? No, you shouldn't put a sign in your yard. No, you shouldn't put a bumper sticker. I mean, there are gray areas, and I think we've talked about this on the show before. I think Twitter has become a bit of a gray area, unfortunately. I think journalists who cover things have taken a little bit more license on Twitter, including talking about facts and falsehoods, than they would in their normal discourse. And so I feel like we're feeling out a lot of this. But I think the march, unless you're an opinion journalist, maybe you're going to check it out and write about it, but you're not holding up a sign. I mean, maybe there are sort of shades of gray so that you can witness but not participate. But I think if you work for a news organization, you're not marching.
I agree with that. I mean, there's so many different things that I've wanted to do throughout my career, but I couldn't do it. I didn't think it was right, because then someone watching on television would say, oh, well, we know where he stands on this. And so you really have to back away from that. You have plenty of time in retirement to catch up and march and do whatever you want. But when it comes to these kinds of events, we can cover them, but I don't think we should be involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea that you don't vote is a bit of a red herring. There are very, very few people who make the argument that journalists shouldn't vote. There are a few. There are a few, and Len Downey, important people, but not very many of them. I totally agree that journalists should not participate. I don't have a problem with attending. Even if you're not necessarily planning to write something, you learn, you talk to people.
There's no difference.
Well, yes, there is.
What if you attend with a notebook? What if you attend with a notebook?
You're not going to attend an NRA or a Tea Party. I mean, people don't just attend. See, a lot, and that's another thing. There's a lot of self-assigning that went on. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go cover it. But really what you were there is you were like,
Well, it may be very difficult to make the distinction. I think we should try to make the distinction.
Well, you can wear your press pass. That'll be a start.
Okay.
But really.
I agree with Dan, though. I agree. There is a shade
unless you
of
have an
gray.
assignment.
Well, but you go with the notebook. You go. What if a political rally? What if a Donald Trump rally during the campaign was in your town and you wanted to go check it out? You didn't have an assignment. You weren't a member of the press corps. Are you allowed to go and check it out, even if you don't like Donald Trump?
That's different. If you're on the side, right? If you're on the sidelines
Yeah.
and you're just I don't think there's anything wrong with watching it.
Yeah.
But once you
Well, that's
step off
kinda
the
what I'm
sidewalk,
saying.
okay, well, if you step off the sidewalk and you're on the
Right,
middle
yeah,
of the
there's
street
a, you know,
and,
can you
and
watch
you
the
grab a
comment
sign,
and be in the comment,
right.
but not walk down the street.
and you shout.
Right. And if you're going with the intent at some point to use that in coverage,
Then that's
okay.
fine.
The various shades between participating, attending, and watching.
I think there's
Okay.
Write a PhD
Inches
paper
on the
that.
sidewalk.
I think it's important though.